Salman, guys. As it was so interesting yesterday. I was with my family, or my extended family, and as a machita, we moved to a side. The younger guys started asking questions, and they were asking myself and asking my brother questions around masculinity and what that looks like, and they've got little kids as well. And the big thing was, what do we do in today's time? A lot of guys that will be watching this don't fully agree or buy into the status quo when it comes to masculinity right now. What had happened was, we grew up in a time where it was ultra feminized. The shows we were watching, I'm talking about my generation, guys. I'm not talking about the generation above me. It was ultra feminized. And the reason why that was done in the 90s and the 2000s was try to rectify what had happened before then. Before then, our mothers and our grandmothers lived in an extremely patriarchal society, not just in terms of how society moved, but also in terms of the systems that were created. And again, coming into a democratic South Africa, what happens from a systematic point and a policy point, they try to swing the pendulum, try to swing the swingamat bob to the one side, where they were trying to rectify all the wrongs of the past. So when it came to affirmative action, a lot of it was geared around black people, again, to try and fix the mistakes of the past, and around females, and that obviously had a lot of positive results from it. But what tended to happen was a lot of negative, where there was a almost lost generation, in the sense that if I look at today's time and I look at the grants that are available from a business point, me being in that space, a lot of it is geared to black sisters. And I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. That's not what I'm saying. It's great. But there should also be opportunities for black male. There should also be opportunities for other races as well that have been marginalized, or other groups that have been marginalized and didn't have the privileges of the past. We can't just have a blanket statement and assume that everyone with the toli, or everyone who was born white, had all these privileges. They should change and have a different criteria in 2024 in order to find out if you were previously disadvantaged. And then once you have ticked on that criteria, then be able to assist. So if I look at a lot of things currently happening right now, there's a lost group, which is black males. And black males are now sitting down and they're watching all these things on social media to try and fix or rectify or learn what a man is. We grew up in a space where we were raised by our moms, who might be singles or grands. Our fathers weren't present, our grandfathers weren't present. That's a conversation for a different day. Some people might believe the fathers were deadbeats and ran away. Some people might believe that mothers pushed them away. Whatever the case may be, they were not there for a lot of South African homes, a lot of black homes, whether you're South African or not, a lot of white homes that also, even though a disgustingly majority is black homes. Now, as a result, you've got all these young men, my generation, between the ages of, let's say, 25 and 45. Let's just give it a 20-year gap, just so that I can use a bit of a robust number, where we unfortunately have been overlooked. We have to deal with the sins of people who were born, before us. So people who are 50 and above, we have to deal with their sins, where they grew up in a time where policy was geared for the man, ideally the white man, but the black man also really did benefit over the black female, So because of those mistakes, or because of how things were run back then, they swung it this side, and to rectify it, boom, all the opportunities go to our sisters. So if we look at, for example, university enrollment, we look at university graduation, if we look at job opportunities now, it's all geared to the black female. If you look at the black man statistic, we as black men have the highest group of unemployment. Look it up, do your homework. So it's not the black sisters at the highest group. It's not when I go to my local, just for the blue collar worker, when I go to Pick and Pay, Woolworths, when I go to Checkers, the thousands and thousands of people that I'm seeing that are working on the cashiers or whatever, those are females. So there are multiple spaces, or many spaces rather, that looks after the black female, but there aren't when it looks after the black men. When I do charity drives at different schools, they're looking at sanitary pads for our sisters. There's nothing that's uniquely young boy. I've got 3 boys. When I switch on the TV to watch, with my little kids, I'm seeing Doc McStuffins, I'm seeing Peppa Pigs, I'm seeing all these cartoons or shows that are geared at young females or young black girls. And there isn't anything for the young black boys, or rather it's very few and far between. I go to exclusive books, I go to CNA, and I'm trying to find books that speak to young black boys, and they're very, very, very limited. There's hundreds upon hundreds that speak to young black girls. Yes, someone might say, then create the stuff. Guys, you must understand, back in the day, it was created. There is a lot of animators and authors that want to do things for young black boys or men in general. Again, it's swung the other way, pushing for a female agenda, which, again, I'm not against. What I'm saying is there is a lost gap in the middle. Therefore, you then have people like your Andrew Tates that come into the world and preach a form of masculinity that I don't know if is constructive to our community. I personally like Andrew Tate in terms of the message that he is taking to the world. Do I agree with everything he says? Of course not. I'm not stupid. I'm a human being. I might like LeBron, but I don't agree with everything he says and does. Come on. So when he speaks about the man upgrading himself, when he speaks about the man taking control of his life, when he speaks about training, when he speaks about making sure you can be a provider, I agree with all of those things. All of those things I agree with, but then he adds his own things that have been deemed extremely toxic. But again, now he's trying to swing it the other way. There's so many guys that are part of this red pill community that are swinging it the other way. Your Kevin Samuels and the like. And when are they again rectifying the huge swing of this feminism? So now we've got a society where it's constantly swinging from one side to another, and there's guys who are young and have kids and have sons and are saying, what do we do? My brother was telling us about a story where he went for a recording with these other doctors, and he comes back and he tells his kids, he's like, I was talking to doctors, and the one guy, he said, and his daughter was like, guy? And he's like, yeah, I was talking to, did you think doctors, when you heard doctors, you heard females? And his daughter was like, yeah. So he goes to his son and he says, hey, when you hear doctors, what do you think? And his son was like, I think of females. And again, this is great. It's great. No one is saying doctors should be a specific gender. But again, you go to a generation that is 50 years plus, and it was doctors equals man. Now, because we're not having these conversations with these little kids, we're assuming based on that generation that no, we must overcorrect. Now you've got a whole generation of kids younger than the age of, let's say, 12 that only think doctors are female, which again, you can't go from one extreme wrong to another extreme wrong. So you'll have a whole generation of young boys that don't think being a doctor is masculine, and they'll see it as a girly profession, if I can call it that. You shouldn't have a single space that is only dominated by one. We need to open our mind and understand that every space needs a difference in energy. The space needs people that are green, pink, blue. They need people who are tall, short, fat, skinny. That space needs that, especially like something like medicine or education, because you're going to be teaching and healing people who are tall, short, fat, skinny, green, blue, whatever the case may be. And if it's just limited to a black female, it again will come with certain complications. It again will come with certain hurdles. If I'm a teacher and all the teachers are black men, and I'm dealing with a lady from a different religion and a different color to me, there will be a little bit of misunderstanding or not understanding or not being able to. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And the more diverse the teaching space is in terms of the teachers with different views, different this, different that, all with the intention of doing what's best for the child, the better it is for the different kids. The same when it goes to medicine. And now these guys are coming in and saying, yo, cuz, how do we teach our kids to be masculine in this space? We don't know how to move. They put in spaces where the majority of teachers are females. And again, females will female. Female will teach female. The way that they look at education is through the female lens. The way that they'll look at little kids is through the female lens. They can only do that. A tortoise can only tortoise. A tortoise can't teach an eagle how to fly. That tortoise can read all the books. That tortoise can watch all the eagles. But it's incredibly difficult for a tortoise to teach an eagle how to fly. The analogy that I try and use is a woman is a tortoise, a man is a turtle. They kind of look the same, but they really not. Every now and again, you've got an arrogant turtle that thinks they can teach a tortoise, and an arrogant tortoise that thinks they can teach a turtle. Nah, fam. You can only teach so much. They'll get to a point where you're like, I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what to do. Because as the most amazing tortoise in the world, given the most average turtle, you won't know how to teach them how to swim. You won't. It's just the reality of life. You won't know how to teach them how to eat seaweed under the water. You won't know them how to dodge and duck a shark. And if you don't do that as a mother who's a tortoise, if you don't teach your turtle how to swim, being a young boy, it's going to create havoc. You've got all these men that are still staying at home. You've got all these men who have this Peter Pan syndrome of not being able to go and handle themselves and provide and be protectors, because again, they were raised by a beautiful, strong, smart, amazing queen tortoise, and just that tortoise in their limitations, in their best limitations, the most purest of spirits, couldn't teach them how to turtle. So again, it's imperative for us men to sit together and say, okay, sharp. What's the first point as men in order to raise our little turtles? What do we do? Maybe the next door neighbor tortoise doesn't have a turtle around there. Let's see if I can then, as the big tortoise, come and assist. Let's see whether it's through social media I can be a tortoise and assist. What is my first point? My first point is just to ensure, Guti, I am present. I am present. Guys, understand, a woman being present and a man being present is not the same thing. It can't be the same thing. If I'm planting strawberries in my garden, it's not the same thing as me planting a tree in my garden. My strawberries will need more attention. They'll need more daily, is it pruning? I don't know what the word is, but they'll need more of a daily me working on them. Even after 2-3 months, they'll need me to take it out, replant. My tree, once the roots are rooted and it's firmly strong and it's a meter, doesn't need me as much. That's the role between a mother and a father. A mother needs to come in like a petrol attendant, constantly pouring petrol into this car. A father needs to come in like a mechanic just to service every now and again. It's different roles of parenting. The way that we tend to our garden is very different. Has to be very different. Me as a job, as a father, what I do is that I cultivate the land. I make sure I plant the seed, and then I take a little bit of a step back. The mother does the daily weeding job. I will come in with certain aspects of that garden. We have different roles. She's more day to day. I'm more quarter to quarter. Understand that. That's the job of masculinity. And that's what I'm trying to explain to my cousins. You need to be present, but in a male way. How are males present? Not the same as females. And I broke it down like how I've just broken it down, what presence looks like. And once you are there, what is your job? How are men seen in today's society? They're seen, whether sisters admit it or not, when they're looking for a partner, they still are traditionalist in looking for a partner that provides and protects. So a lot of these sisters that are going on social media, Twitter, are talking about feminism, this, feminism, that, they at their core, when they are seeking a partner, they're still looking for a man who can provide and protect and be kind and be respectful and be loving. We get the other things. So you as a father who's got sons, you need to understand, Wuti, they need to know what work is. Now, there's a difference in working and washing dishes versus working and planting in your garden. Those are different things. The person who's washing dishes is not going to be able to provide like you who's working in the field, planting veggies or going out there hunting. So it's understanding the type of work that your son needs to understand. The type of work that he needs to ready himself for is the type of work that will speak to provision. The type of work that mothers do speaks to maybe a more nurturing, more taking care of a family, much like washing dishes, sweeping. I'm not saying you don't teach your son to wash dishes. I'm not